Welcome to the Embody Your Design podcast. I am your host, Amy May, 6'3" emotional manifesting generator. I am obsessed with human design and mindset tools and using them to create a life beyond my wildest dreams. My goal with this podcast is to bring you human design and share stories around how you too can begin to embody your human design. What is talked about in this podcast are the thoughts and opinions of me and my guests. I'm always welcome to feedback should you have any. Thank you for being here, and let's dive in as we embody our human design, one conversation at a time. All right, guys, so this is a new era of the podcast. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited. So primarily, this is a transition into video podcasting. And if you have been following me for a while, you know, earlier this year, I did do some human design readings and for the express purpose of putting them on the podcast. And for previous ones, they were only on audio, so now it's on video. And of course, because I do these sessions on Zoom, they were recorded in video. So this first one, it is a little choppy because I had originally, like at the time of recording them, intended for it to be an audio podcast, but now with videos and with everything, my life has like changed so much in the past 6 months. It has been insane. It is a little choppy. Like, I'm just putting it out there, like being fully transparent. And the first few episodes that will be coming out with readings, it's going to be a little bit clunky. So however, there is so much valuable content in here. So please, like, bear with me as I am like putting all of this together and learning new skills and everything. So please enjoy this episode. It is a reading with a 5-1 sacral manifesting generator. And because I just like hit record, I was like, oh yeah, like I'll fix things, and I don't know. At the beginning and the ending are a little like chopped off, but everything in the middle is just like there and completely beautiful and everything. So enjoy. And you know that what with you enjoying the interviewing aspect of things, like that makes complete sense. Because I tend to enjoy the same thing, and I realize that it's because of the like defined sacral, with which all generators have, and that's because we really thrive with responding to things. We need things to respond to, you know, and being in an interview and being with talking with people, like that's the perfect you're getting so much to like respond to as far as content creation and putting things out there. And the other big thing, which is, you know, kind of obvious, but it's like, what do you really enjoy doing as far as your business? And is there anything that's happening? And just from some of the questions, like, are you doing things because you feel like you should be doing them? Or is it because they light you up and it's like that passion?
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to be aware of.
Yeah. And so that that's a big thing to explore. It's like, what in your business is something that you're super passionate about? With the, like, does Enneagram still feel like exciting and satisfying to you to be talking about that?
Yes, that it does.
Okay.
And well, I'll just say really quickly before I go on to that, just something else that you said was about the sacral being defined and needing something to respond to.
Yeah.
So I am taking a thought leadership inside this program called the Thought Leadership Academy, where you're kind of like stepping out of expert mode, like having the information and then moving into like a thought leader with kind of a unique spin on your topic. And so one of the challenges was to, if you had a podcast, to do some solo episodes to start to kind of find your voice and like your topic. And I have really struggled. I don't know on the outside if I have, but it's been like a struggle. Whereas like the interviews just come so natural. And I actually get feedback from almost every guest that they really enjoyed the interview, or they've done a lot of interviews and they found that one to be really good and they enjoyed that conversation. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm good at this. So I'll kind of find ways to lean in more to that. But then it's also like, how do you, I mean, I would like to have some unique ideas. Like I have an idea of like writing a book and I would like to speak. So it's like, well, how do I find that if I like, I'm struggling so much? And if my thing is to have something to respond to, does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So with that being said, there's a couple things here. Like this is where some of that should energy can be coming up. Like, oh, they're telling me that I need to be a thought leader and have a unique spin on Enneagram and have a unique spin. That's like the should, like somebody else is telling you to do that. But what feels really good to you is doing these interviews.
Yeah.
So that's where some of that should energy is coming from. And I've felt it too with human design. And that's why I've scaled back. And I'm like, well, wait, I'm not here to reinvent the human design wheel. I'm here to share this magic with other people. And I'm going to do what feels good to me.
Yeah.
But with that being said, a way to work, like, because sometimes we're not the thing that, like interviews with people, it's like it depends on other people. Like, what if you're like, there's nobody around to interview, whatever. There's always things to respond to around us. And so I've done some solo episodes of my podcast or things, like if I read something and I have a response to it.
Yes.
And I talk about it. Yeah. That can be something helpful if that is, because sometimes it is, they're with us in this personal development space. It's this, is this out of alignment or am I just resisting my next level? And sometimes it's resisting the next level, but we dismiss it because we think it's like, oh, this is out of alignment, I'm going to avoid this. And I can't tell what it is for you. I can just give you some things to contemplate and everything. But if it is just simply resistance, play around with different ways of responding. Like maybe like paying attention when you're doing some working with like Enneagram or something, and like paying attention, like, oh, do I like actually agree with what somebody has said about working with the Enneagram, which I'm not, and I don't know too much about it. I just know that it exists. So if I'm using like poor languaging,
no, you're
sorry.
Fine. Yeah.
But like if, for example, like within human design, there's some thoughts around, oh, you can't talk about like certain things within human design if you haven't mastered the beginning part, so you can't talk about this other part. But I don't agree with that, so I do whatever.
Okay, so I just had this thought, Amy, a couple days ago about making it approachable and like interesting versus like some of the heaviness that like almost like, I don't think Enneagram can be academic. But kind of like what you were saying. And I was like, I don't I don't believe I had a similar feeling too. It just resonated with what you said.
Yeah. Like something, like it doesn't, you don't necessarily need to completely like reinvent the wheel, but like, what are some things that maybe when you learned it that you don't necessarily agree with now that you know it, you teach it, you do this for people, like you have this knowledge of it. What are some things that you would do differently now that you have like this whole picture? And share and talk about that, because that it is like a unique spin. It's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but that is something that you can share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And yeah, so I know that you said like you hadn't had like a human design reading before, but what is your have you done any like looking into human design on your own a little bit? Like
I have a little bit. So okay. I have the gist of like the manifesting generator, like kind of lots of ideas and multitasking, and which ironically, the manifesting generator energy aligns like so perfectly with my Enneagram type 7, which is known as the enthusiast or the multitasker.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But when I get into like channels and that kind of thing, I also don't love, I'm learning to, but when I first learned that I think it's called the authority is to respond, to wait, to respond. Just like we've been talking, I didn't love that because I'm like, well, I don't want to wait.
No. Okay. So, what comes up with that? It's actually to respond. It can be very instantaneous.
Okay.
If you hear wait to respond, it's for people who have the emotional authority, which is me, and that's because our emotions mess with us. Like we can't or we shouldn't make decisions when we're emotionally high or low, and it just messes with us. But you just have a defined sacral, and so you can respond in the moment and think about every single day, every single moment, we have like a bajillion things that we're responding to that we're not even aware of. Like, oh, the temperature outside, it's hot or cold. I'm going to like put on a sweater or take off my sweater, or the light, when you came on, like, oh, it's cloudy. I need my light on. Oh, wait, that's too bright. I'm turning it down. That's a response. You're responding to everything like every single day, and it can be in the moment. And so this waiting, like, and the other part that comes up with your chart specifically is you have this 360 channel. It connects your root, which is the physical pressure, to your sacral, which is that life force battery. It's like your pleasure and everything. And so when you feel the physical pressure to do something, and it's something that's deeply satisfying to you and like excites you, lights you up, you're going to want to do it right away. And you're meant to do it right away. And you're likely not going to be able to like focus on anything else when that's driving you. And that's okay. Like that's how you're meant to operate. And so that quick, like, no, I don't want to wait. Like that's in your design. Like, you're not necessarily meant to wait for that, so go for it. Give yourself that permission to just move forward with it if it feels good.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely feel that for sure. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of the stuff, somebody had mentioned something about like your environment at one point, like where you're supposed to like live, or it would be like the perfect place for you. And I saw mountains on here and I was like, oh my God, that's accurate.
So mountains, like it can mean literally mountains, but how many people live in the mountains? Like, think about it. So really what that means is, if you can, like, more, it's like above sea level. And if you can live, like, if you can live like on a second floor, or like in a high rise, I mean, that's not always possible depending on depending on where you are and everything, like that's more what that environment is. It's the mountains. It's about being elevated.
Elevated. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I had heard. So, and I mean, that's really it, Amy, as far as like, I feel like I know enough to be dangerous, but like I'm seeing other things on here. And I'm like, oh, what does that mean? So yeah, a lot of
Yeah. There's,
curiosity.
yeah, what do you want to know about? Like, this is all about you. Like, you got,
Well, I'm curious the two things that kind of like, what does the brain passive mean and the trajectory leader? What does that mean?
okay. So the brain, all of these words, they kind of come from these arrows, those little pesky arrows up there. So the passive brain, this is your it's your digestion, which I think, okay, that it doesn't say digestion on there. Okay. It's your digestion. So this means like you digest in a very like feminine, flowy way. So it could be, I think of it more like active people. They're the kind of people who would need to digest things every like three, like very regular, like having a regular eating schedule. And digestion is like eating and information. So being in flow is like, okay, one day I wake up and I want to eat breakfast at 9 a.m. Another day I wake up and I want to eat breakfast at like 7 a.m. It's very like, it's not regimented. It's not, it's very much like in the flow. You eat when you're hungry, and it's not always at the same time, not always the same amount every day. That kind of a thing. And then same with information, like it could be like you're really in the mood, like you're really ready to like study this course and like take it all in, like a short burst, and then like just relax, like not want to learn, for a longer period of time. And also with the passive brain, I have an active brain, so I've just heard this from other people, but you tend to be able to like read something once and remember it, and it's like stored in there. And somebody could just ask a question and it'll come out.
In the passive?
Yeah, in the passive. Whereas for me, like even though I have my iPad with like notes, like even though I've like studied and gone through all the human design course, like with some of the stuff that I haven't gone through and talked about with people a lot, like the more advanced stuff, I need my notes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
because
so
like I haven't memorized it yet, because I haven't had that like a lot of that active brain power with it. So that's like this brain here. And then underneath, I know you didn't ask it, but along with that, like the cold determination, that also has to do with digestion. Like you digest food better or digest information better when you're cold, like below body temperature. Like foods below body temperature, like cold foods.
Interesting.
Yeah. Versus like some people, it's hot.
Yeah, I do. I don't like my food hot. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like to cook it and then let it cool off.
Yeah.
My boyfriend's like, why even cook
it? Well, sometimes you need to cook it, but like anything that is like colder, that's how your body digests food better. And it's so interesting to hear like, oh, I naturally do that. Like,
yeah, that is like, I love leftovers. Yeah.
Yes.
Like straight out of the fridge. That's so funny.
Yes. Yeah. And so you can use that to help like your brain digest information better. You can like allow yourself to be a little bit cold. Like that might help learn a little better, versus like if you're in a like hot, some people really like being in like that hot, like really hot room where they're like, get a little sweaty or whatever, like a sauna type. Like, no, that's probably not You probably are just like the idea of a sauna, like, oh no. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what that is. And then um the trajectory. Sometimes with these words, I'm just like, I don't understand. Why do you put these words on here? And they don't have, the genetic matrix doesn't have a tutorial on it. So, of course,
Well, if we don't have to, that's okay. I just saw that. I'm
I
also,
know
oh, go
I
ahead.
hate when people have that. I'm like, I know what the arrows are.
Yeah. So the arrows I'm curious about. And then I've heard like the profile. I know people talk about, I've seen like the numbers and
Yeah.
then that incarnation cross. I'm really curious about too.
Okay. So the profile, that's the 5-1. The 5 line, it's a wisdom line based on solutions. And so this is, and like with the profile, it's like, it comes from, it actually comes from part of like the incarnation cross too, because it's these 4 numbers up here, and it's the number after the decimal. And like up here, the top here, this is astrology, it's your sun. If you know, like your sun sign, it's like that 70, it's like 70% of your personality. It's a huge part of who you are. And so that profile, that's like where that kind of comes from. It's like a part of your personality. And so this 5 is like wisdom, based in like solutions. And so you're able to have like, you have like wisdom, and you're able to like share that with other people. And sometimes with that, like people may be coming to you with their problems, or um expecting you to save them. Like if you see the word next to it, it says like heretical, or sometimes it says heretic. Like if you think of a
Yeah.
heretic, like they have those like wild, wild ideas, and everybody hates them for it. And that's kind of that energy. And with the 5-1 profile, it can kind of have this energy of people either love you or hate you. If you think of Taylor Swift, like people either are obsessed with her or they're like hating on her. That's
Mhm.
her profile. Like if you think about it that way, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's really coming back to owning who you are. Like you're not here, you don't need to save other people. Just because you have that wisdom doesn't mean you're obligated to use it for other people.
Mhm.
um, and the one part of the profile, this is the investigator. This is, if you think of investigator, they're looking for information. It's the one is, the first line, it's the foundation. And so you're when you hear about something, you're probably driven to learn more about it. Like if you hear about something, like you're like, oh, I'm going on the Googles, I'm gonna like research and get all this information, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what the one line is. It's like finding this information, and then you're able to take that information and like gain wisdom from it, and have solutions from that information that you've gathered. Is that something that you've noticed within yourself?
Yeah, like
Okay.
I don't know if you can see like my bookshelf behind
Yeah.
me, but for listeners, if anybody's listening, I love like taking in information. It's a hobby, like it's a
Mhm.
joy to like learn new things.
Yes, exactly. Like yeah, they're through books. And oh yeah, I remember, like, didn't you try to start like a book club at some
Yeah,
point?
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I remember that now. And everything. So there is that, like, okay, I'm looking for this information. And the thing to keep in mind with that is that um like does finding this information, does it bring you joy? Like is it satisfying to you? Or is it like, as long as if it feels satisfying to you, and you're not feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to find this information because I'm not good enough or whatever, like allow yourself to be in the satisfaction of it and not anything else. Like if you find yourself getting frustrated or angry or whatever, that's the time to just kind of let it go a little bit, and make sure that you're giving yourself rest too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So then like what with the 5-1, like
Mhm.
how does that, like what are some things to keep in mind, I guess from like a work perspective or things to like avoid?
Really, the only thing that what I use for anything within my human design, I look at these, it says themes here, but they're your signature and non-self themes. So the signature is satisfaction. And so signature is when you're in your highest vibrational alignment, like it's like, oh, your aura is singing and all that fun stuff. So if it feels satisfying to you, go for it, even if it doesn't make sense. Like no matter what I say, if it feels satisfying to you, go for it. That's like the only thing. Like satisfaction, good. If you're feeling frustrated or angry, that's something to take a look at. Like why? Like what's going on here? Get curious with it, and get curious with it. And then once you've like recognized a possible reason why, then you can move away from whatever's causing that like frustration or anger. And that could be the very first thing that I look at is, have I eaten? Am I hydrated? How well did I sleep the night before? And if any of one of those three things have not happened, take care of it. And then it could very well be one of those three things. Like so often, we, especially with the passive brain or the passive digestion, you may have forgotten to eat. You may have forgotten to like, getting so caught up in everything, like forgotten to eat, drink water, nap, may not necessarily need to nap a lot as a manifesting generator with the energy that you have, but maybe generator types are meant to get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, like straight through. And so if you didn't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, then it could be like, oh, I'm a little frustrated. Maybe you got 6 hours. Maybe, I know you have a child. Like maybe the kid kept me up all
Yeah.
night or something, or storms, or like I didn't sleep all last night because I think it's like Pisces, Jupiter, Neptune, something. My astrology friend was texting me. I'm like, oh, okay, there was some funky energy last night, so I didn't sleep, and that this is affecting me. I'm a little bit more on edge. That's something to recognize. But then it could be something else. Um, it could be like if you could be frustrated as far as like helping other people, like feeling like it may feel like the people close to you that you're needing to like save them all the time, or maybe they're asking you for help a little bit too much and you're saying yes a little bit too much, and that could be leading to frustration. That's something that can come up with the 5-1, but I'm not saying you can't help people. I can't tell like, you're not allowed to help people. That's a decision up to you. And using the noticing the feelings of frustration and anger, like when that comes up, or like maybe resentment, and taking a look like, okay, I meant to say no and have a boundary with this person, with this situation.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something really interesting, Amy, as you were saying this, I was looking at this line. So like, it's just really crazy how the Enneagram is overlapping here, because as a 7, my core desire is to be satisfied. And so like everything in my life is focused on that. And then I have, there's 3 types that have a core emotion around frustration. And so I'm like, yeah, I get frustrated, like when things, like I have all these ideas and things I want to do and things I want to learn. And then when it doesn't turn out to be as satisfying as I thought it would be. It feels
Mm.
really frustrating, or it doesn't go like I thought it would, or I'm putting like all my happiness into this thing. And then it's like, oh, that was very underwhelming. Then it's like, oh, that's really frustrating. So that's interesting.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. And I haven't looked very much into Enneagram yet, but I have noticed that within like the human design, it does overlap with the other systems. Like everything just kind of comes into play, and it's so fascinating. Like I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. But
Yeah.
the thing with you is, yeah, it's frustrating. Like if you're learning something and you think it's going to feel so satisfying, and then it's not. Um, with being like a oh my gosh, a pure manifesting generator, which just means that you just have the sacral and not the emotional defined, or colored in. I'm using
Yeah,
terms
that's
and I'm like,
new.
yeah.
I didn't know there was a not a pure, or like a pure versus
Yeah,
not.
yeah. So pure just means that your authority is the sacral. And so you're designed to
Okay.
make decisions based on your gut feeling. And
Okay.
so in the moment, like the moment that you recognize, oh, this isn't as satisfying to me as I thought it would be, that's a sign to walk away from the moment, because it's you're very much guided in the moment. Um,
Mm,
and so to avoid like maybe some of that like frustration is to like walk away. Like, maybe you're starting to learn something that you thought would feel really good. And then the moment that it doesn't feel good anymore, giving yourself that permission to, oh, okay, I'm going to walk away from this.
mm,
And then
yeah.
it's, a lot of the times the information is always there to come back to, especially, with any like courses or online courses that you invest in and stuff. Like the information, it's usually lifetime access.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. But
So
it,
there is no like, oh my gosh, I need to learn all this in the moment, like right now. Or you may be feeling that way, but it's because you've put the pressure on yourself to feel that, to like
mm,
do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels true.
Yeah. So you can give yourself permission the moment that it's no longer satisfying to you to walk away, and not permanently walk away. I feel like, oh, right now, I'm going to come
Yeah.
back to this later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that being said, like I would highly recommend, because I know there's some coaches that have like temporary assistance for things. I would recommend like lifetime access to anything that you invest. If
Mm,
there's something that is, oh, we're running this program and you have to be live in order to get like the support.
yeah.
um I would just recommend anything that you can have like lifetime access to, just because of that, like that the sacral is moment by moment, and it might be feel good in one moment, but maybe you're going through it and it's not as satisfying to you, and it's time to pause. And that way you have that to go back on it. It's not this, oh my gosh, I have to spend the money to come back to this when I'm ready for it. It just, for me, it just gets too much thinking involved.
Yeah.
With
Well,
everything.
that's a good question. So that makes me think of a question
Yeah.
about like um even like things that I do in my business, or like projects, or like a social media strategy, or even like offers and
Mhm.
types of services. There are some times where it's like, oh, I was really excited about this, and now I don't know, I don't love it. Like the book club idea.
Mhm.
That was great to try because that had just been circling and circling, but then I think it was like 5 months later I was like, I'm not feeling this. What is the balance between like listening to that And then also like, I don't know, committing or jumping too soon. Like if I was like, oh, I don't like this offer anymore. Like I've done that before and I just leave. And then I'm like, well, I think I was just having a day or I don't know. And then it's like, that was actually a really great idea. I don't know why I stopped doing that. Does that question make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. So, the thing is that with being like, you understand, like being a manager and you're multi-passionate, you like a lot of different things. We go through these creative cycles, and something feels like really good and really like we get an idea, it feels really good, it's in alignment, we start to create, we do it, we go through like the process, and then there's a time where it's time to let it go and leave it, and then you go into a period of like rest and rejuvenation until like the next idea comes forth. And so it sounds like with the book club, since you ran it for 5 months, like it was a good idea. It's not saying like it was never a good idea, but the time for you, like you recognize the time for you to let it go, like it no longer felt satisfying for you to do it, and then it was time to let it go. And like, yeah, it's still a good idea, and it may be something that you want to bring back at some point. But what I've noticed, and like working with some other manifesting generators, is we have these ideas, we create them, and then they no longer feel satisfying to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, when I create things, I'll run something live, and then I sell the recordings of it, because I no longer want to teach it live or like go through it live. But people who want the information can get like the replays and the recordings.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily something that you can do with a book club, but if if it's something that people paid to be a part of, that's something where you could like pass it on to, like, if you had an assistant or something, or somebody in business with you, like, okay, I'm not doing the book club anymore. Like, I'm passing it on to my assistant, who's like amazing. You guys all know her, and she's going to be running the book club. And the book club could still be running in your business because it's a great idea, but you are no longer a part of it because it doesn't feel like satisfying to you. And it might feel satisfying to you to like participate in a part of it later on, but overall, it's like your time with it is done, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, peace with that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I used to run this group live, like you were saying, and I loved it. Like I loved the group. I loved the conversations, the topics. And I recorded like a lesson every day for 21 days. But I mean, that was kind of, it got difficult towards the end, even though I loved the content, loved the group. And then, I was rewatching it a few months ago. I ran the group, I think 2 more times. Again, enjoyed it, but I was like, I don't know why. I'm kind of over this idea.
Yeah.
But what I did, I went back and I was like watching some of those videos, and I kind of, like I just told you, I was like, gosh, these were like good ideas, or I liked how I said that. And so what I'm just in the middle of finishing up is I added some new ideas, but then I took a lot of those videos and I put them in a course, like a mini training course. So I still get to have that, but like I don't have to ever present it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not running it live. It's just kind of like a self-study kind of thing. And I'm like really excited about that right now.
Yes, that's exactly it. Like, it's recognizing like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, but that doesn't mean the information still isn't good, and I can still like sell it, or I can still use this to help people, but this is how it's going to come about, or like having it available for people to purchase. Yeah. I love that. That's
Yeah, I just kind
perfect.
of added the Enneagram piece to like understanding like which strategies to use for those videos. So yeah, I feel like it was like a fresh idea, but also not completely renovating or reinventing the wheel.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And like one of the people I've been following lately is Amanda Francis. She's a manifesting generator also, and with her stuff, she just like adds in like when she is inspired, like, okay, I'm just updating. I'm just teaching a new module, like I'm in her money course, and it's literally the old content from, I think she originally started in 2014, and she just
Oh,
adds
wow.
when she learns new things and elevates. She just teaches a new module live.
Mm,
Everything is like it's really fascinating to watch. Like, okay, this is like really basic, and then, oh, this is the involving, and so that's another way to play around with it. Like, you get like the thing that sometimes we forget, because we take courses and we learn from mentors and everything, but when we're having our business, we get to create it however we want.
yeah.
Like, there's no like rule book as far as like what we have to teach and how we have to teach it and everything. So it is very much about exploring like what feels good to me and doing that. And yeah, I know you said one of the things you struggled with was offers and everything. Like, what do you my biggest question is like, what feels satisfying to you to offer right now? Like, what feels really good, like how you show up and uh, how you want to serve your clients.
Well, I recently did away with I have a couple of people that I started on this path, so we're going to finish it, but I did away with my like my weekly, like I had a 3 month marketing mentorship
Okay.
where we kind of like understood your Enneagram type and then how specific strategies would play into that. And we would meet every week. And I realized I had this light bulb moment that some people that works really well for, but then others, they weren't, able to do whatever we talked about last time for
Mhm.
whatever reason, life, all kinds of stuff. And then we would have another, it would be like a forced weekly meeting, but it just wasn't necessary because they hadn't done the thing. So, and maybe this is kind of like part of this energy is I did away with that. And then I just had like packages, like, like sessions in a package, and then they get to pick when they do that. And that has like, I just recently did that in the last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And that has felt really good. Not to be tied myself to be tied to a weekly, like a forced weekly meeting,
Yeah.
if it's not necessarily. And then also I feel good for my client that if they have that style too, they're not forced, but if they want to schedule it weekly, well, then that's they're deciding that themselves. And so even if we end up meeting weekly, it feels like it's their choice. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that has felt really good. Um, I think what I sometimes struggle with is like, I feel like I'm always creating and it feels fun, but then it gets to a point where it's like, oh my God, I am so tired. I'm so
Hmm.
tired that I don't have time to now like sell and market this thing that I created or this idea that I've been putting together. Um, and then I just disappear for a while to like recharge. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. And so for me, I guess I'm trying to understand like what is the balance between like being inspired and creating, and then also like having some sort of guardrails on. So I'm not always in like services, creating new products, like that type of thing. And I actually give it a chance to like live and be sold and have people go through it or work with me. So I know that was kind of a ramble.
No, that's like perfect. Yeah, no, that's perfect. So what can come up is, this is like very typical Manny John energy that I've noticed. And I feel this within me also. And this is like making sure that you're giving yourself time to rest, like when you're, even like when you're creating. And with some of that, it's that it could be, wait, I'm backtracking. Okay. So when you're with the offers and the things that you put out there, is it very much like you're working one-on-one with people, or like showing up live to like teach something and everything, and there's nothing where you can like just sell it and then not be a part of it, like something evergreen?
Yes. So that is what I'm finishing now, that I'm really excited about.
Okay.
It's just like a low, kind of like a low entry point, but it feels like, okay, I've done all the energy to create it, and now I can just kind of sell it and talk about it. And then when people go through it, I'm not responsible.
Perfect. Yes. That's what I was going to suggest, is like, because if you build a business that is solely on, I know James Wedmore has talked about this, but like if it's like all one-on-one, then it's not very sustainable, because you have to be like showing up all the time in order to, make money. It's like, I have to show up. It's like this one-to-one energy, and like shifting that into like a one-to-many format, so that you can give yourself that permission to rest and show up in a way that feels good. The only thing that I would say with like, resting and disappearing is being sure to like inform your audience, like, hey, you guys, I'm taking a little break, some R&R, and giving people a way to, like, for any clients, or having a way for people to like reach out. I mean, most of us do, even though we say we're taking a break, we're like, we have email and all that stuff, like, but like making sure that people know that, like, hey, you can reach out to like my support email if you have any issues with products or whatever, and everything, but giving yourself that permission to take that rest, because I think especially with like, you have this defined root, and a lot of like sacral energy. A lot of the gates within the sacral are defined for you. That's all the numbers that have like the red circle around, and like the lines.
Yeah. What do those mean? I mean, we probably don't have time to go through all of them, but is there any that like that I should know about, like that I should look into first, start with?
So, looking at, so the numbers that up here at the top, those are going to have like a bigger impact on you. It's your sun and earth, and they're actually, let me just double check. Only one, only one's in the sacral, this 29. Let me like look at that. Like 29 is the gate of perseverance, and it's designed to commit to itself in its process without needing to know the end destination. And it's like it's a responsive energy, like saying yes to what's right in front of you. And like, you have like a devotion and a commitment to things and that you're working on, and this inspires other people. And so like unbalanced or like out of alignment, it can show up as overcommitting, to not know when to let go and when enough is enough, and failing to commit to the right thing, and like burning out, depleting yourself because you don't say yes to yourself to do something, like just because you can, not because you want to.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, I can do that. Let me just prove everybody, look what I can do.
And like you're being in alignment with this gate is like the ability to respond to committing to the right thing, to know that your perseverance and determination changes the narrative of the world and shows people what is possible. And like your devotion sets the tone for the direction that life takes you. So again, it's like, is this for you, not for other people, not just because you can do it. Like just because you can do it doesn't always mean that you should.
That's so good.
Yeah. And this is your unconscious sun, or your design sun. And so this is something that you may not be aware of, like other people may be noticing. And so it doesn't mean you can't change it or anything, but it's just maybe it's something that you notice happening, maybe, like especially as I say it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see that. But it may not have been something you were thinking about consciously a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I have this opportunity, like this is so like manifesting generator of me.
Yeah.
So love the Enneagram, also love like marketing and personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into being interested in this other project about like affiliating and
Mm-hmm.
creating affiliation programs for other business owners. I'm like, this is fun. But it was fun like at the beginning. And then I was like, I don't love like doing, gosh, I'm like almost like hesitant. I hope nobody's listening to this podcast that I work with. It's fine. Like I loved them. But I didn't like when I was actually doing the work, it was very like tedious. Like I had to like keep track of calendar dates and tasks lists. And then I had an opportunity. I have a call with somebody later this week to talk about they're doing theirs. And a part of me is like, well, it's really good money. Don't pass up an opportunity. They reached out to you, like this fell in your lap. And then I'm also like, gosh, I just don't love like doing those little like planning. It doesn't feel natural to me. Like it feels like I have to really concentrate and I can do it like you were saying, but it feels like really heavy. And I kind of feel like resentful a little bit in the middle of doing it. So then it's like, well, I guess that's your answer, to do it or not. But then it's like, well, I hate to pass this up. What if something else doesn't come? And then I pass, so that's something I'm like struggling with right now. Cause I'm like, oh, I can do it. I've done it. I know I'm good at it. It's not my zone of genius, but I can do it. So that's like a thing in real life that's playing out for me.
Yeah. And that's something to sit with, like, is this satisfying to me? Like, why am I doing this? Just I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it's like the way like this is something that like explore, get curious with it, and like asking yourself, is this something that I'm resisting because it may be taking me to the next level? Or is this something that truly isn't right for me at this point?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I know that our time is almost up, but do we have time to talk about the incarnation cross? Just because like I see that and I'm like, I don't know. I've seen it, but I don't know what that means at all.
So the incarnation cross, we kind of went over like a part of it.
Oh, okay.
Because it's basically, it comes from these four gates at the top here, the 43, 23, and then the 29 and the 30. And so we talked about like 29 a little bit. And then, so essentially like this incarnation cross, it's like human design says it's like your purpose. I kind of learned about it through, or I was encouraged to not necessarily understand oh, this is the dedication, da, 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 but really just to
Mm-hmm.
look at the four gates, and
Okay.
they're opposites. And so like this, like there's going to be something that they're basically like, if you think of like different ends of a magnet, and they kind of like pull, they kind of like, I'm like using this wrong, but basically like one energy is gonna like take you like up here, the other one is like gonna try to like pull you down so that you end up somewhere in the middle. That's kind of like what these energies are. And so like for your conscious sun, this is 43. This is the gate of insights. And so like you have ideas that are fully unique and ahead of their time. And like this is like timing is going to be like hugely important for you. And it's so interesting that like you were talking about, oh, I'm in this thing where it's like, oh, like being a thought leader and all this, like timing with that is going to be like huge. um like your challenge is going to be like to get comfortable and trust epiphanies and your deep inner knowing without doubting that you know, to trust that, like to trust in your timing. You will know how to share what you know and serve your role as a transformative messenger. And so you do have like incredible insights. It's just knowing the timing of when to share them. And you do have like this complete channel here. Um, where so when you do have these insights, like you do have like the flow of energy to be able to share them. It's again just trusting like when that timing is right. And like out of alignment is like having or feeling despair or frustration related to having knowledge but struggling to share what you know.
Mm-hmm.
um like experiencing lightning bolts of knowingness and clarity, but feeling overwhelmed by your inability to articulate what you understand, or not waiting for the right time to share what you know, and feeling alone with your wisdom. Whereas like the balanced or the in alignment is the ability to tap into new knowledge, understandings, and insight that expand people's understanding of the world, and aligning with the right timing and trust you'll know how to share what you know when you need to share it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like I love that too. And then yeah, the 23, this is the that's the voice part of it. It's from the throat. Let me get that up. Yeah, it's the gate of assimilation. So it expresses the insights that are ahead of their time in a clear and concise manner. And you truly know something when you can explain it in simple terms. And the challenge is to recognize that change and transformation are inevitable, to know what needs to happen next, and to wait for the right timing and the right people to share your insights with. And not jumping the gun and trying to convince people to understand what you know. And so like the unbalanced or out of alignment is needing to be right, or an anxiety or pressure to share what you know when with people who aren't ready, and then to feel despair or bitterness that they don't understand the things the way you do. And so and being in alignment is being able to translate transformative insights for people that offer them a way to transform the way that you think, to share what you know with awareness of right timing, and to trust your knowingness as an expression of your connection to source.
I love that. And that makes me think like I have another kind of activity as part of that group has been to reach out to organizations or groups that you could speak to and get paid to speak. And it's really interesting because I kind of did that. Well, because I will. And so it's like I had these connections from past careers. And then when people were getting back to me, I was thinking like, I don't actually want to speak to your group. Like, I don't want to, I feel like you wouldn't get it. I feel like I don't actually love hanging out with you anyway. So I'm like, why did I even reach out to you? I don't know. So that's just like a great reminder about kind of like that timing, and then like being aware, because I also connected with this other group, and it's like this all female, really cool, like branding company. And they're into human design and horoscopes, and like just a really fun kind of with the energy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I have all these ideas for their workshop. So that's what hit me when you were saying that, is just to be incredibly like intentional and aware of who I'm reaching out to and why. Is it because like, oh, I have something to prove, or is it because I guess I would be really satisfied to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. And, yeah, and like what's nice is like these two, it's like it is a complete channel. It's not always like, when we're looking at the unconscious, we have like 29 over here and then 30 over here. It's not like that complete flow of energy, and that's why like those two really went together. And it's about really being it with the right timing. Like, who am I sharing this with? Is it the right people? Is it the right group? And how can this like flow be like really great? And then your unconscious earth, this is earth, I didn't tell you that, sorry. But yeah, it's like it's your conscious and unconscious sun and earth that forms your incarnation cross. And so the last one is gate 30. This is actually in your emotional center over here. This is the gate of clinging fire, and this gate is never free from desire. The low expression is being consumed by desire and never being satisfied with what you already have. The yearning for more doesn't need to feel quite so heavy. It can feel light when you learn not to take experiences personally. The challenge is to be able to sustain a dream or vision without burning out, to know which dream to be passionate about, and to not let passion overwhelm you, and wait for the right timing to share your passion with the world. A lot of this is all about timing. And like, unbalanced is burnout, impatient, not waiting for the right timing, misdirected passion that is perceived as too much intensity, and like leaping into chaos. I don't know if I see that for you, but I don't know. I'm also like not in your energy. So
I mean, that is like I will say again, like that is a type 7 Enneagram energy right there. And I absolutely, it's almost like, I'm like frantically looking for satisfaction, being driven versus like drawn and allowing. And so, that like totally resonated, with just kind of being more discerning about what passion you like put your energy into.
Yes. Yeah. And like being in alignment is more like being able to sustain a dream, intention, or a vision until you bring it into form, and inspiring others with the power of your dream, and like to inspire passion in others. It's like having the dream and like keeping it like feeling really good until it is the right timing to bring it forth. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Want to dive even deeper? You can book your own reading and choose to be featured on the podcast. How awesome would that be? By going to my website, www.theamymay.com/sessions. And if you can't get enough of human design, follow me on Instagram and or YouTube at Manny_Jen_in_the_wild, and catch my human design videos. Thank you again for listening, and catch you in the next episode.